Now I think it's about time that I told you the story of when I was stuck inside a Japanese World War II shipwreck at almost 30 meters deep in an insane current and with a very incompetent diver by my side. Now, if you've been following this channel for a little while, you may know that I quit my job almost 3 years ago now in order to become a full-time adventurer and chase various adventures around the world. And the first stop on that mission was booking a one-way flight to the Philippines, and that's exactly what I did. I landed in Manila and then flew straight to the islands of El Nido and Coron in order to get my scuba certification. I started with open water and then went straight into my advanced open water, and that is exactly when this story unfolds. I just finished my open water certification and was doing my advanced. This was my 8th dive ever and my 3rd out of the 4 necessary dives in order to get my advanced certification. I'm not going to tell you the name of the dive shop in this video because I actually really love them. They're a fantastic company and I want to dive with them again, and you can make up your own mind in the combination of how this event unfolded. It was a combination of having this diver by my side that was extremely nervous and unconfident and not up to scratch to such an advanced dive that we ended up taking on, and also this company that pushed our limits a little bit further than probably was fair for our skill level at the time. This dive takes place in a Japanese shipwreck named Okikawa Maru, and it is 160 meters long, and a 160 meter long oil tanker that was sunk in the early 1940s in the Second World War. And the current depth of the shipwreck is, it starts at 10 meters deep and then declines all the way down to just shy of 30 meters deep at its full length. And so we hop in. It's myself, the dive master, and this other student, and the dive master had instructed me to go behind him because I was slightly more competent, and the student was kicking up some silt on the other student, rather, I was a student as well, was kicking up silt on the previous dive, which obviously affects the water clarity a lot and makes it impossible to see. So if she was in front of me, it might have been more of a problem because I wouldn't have been able to see behind. Completely aside from the fact that it was pitch black in there because it was inside a deep shipwreck. So anyway, it's the 3 of us. And it started to get a little bit spicy as soon as we jumped off the boat. So we tied a bow line to the bow of our diving boat down to the shipwreck, the bow of the shipwreck, and the current was extremely strong, the strongest current I'd ever experienced up to that point. So as soon as you jump in, you've got to get a hold of the rope because you're almost pinned horizontally, probably would have moved at about 2 or 3 meters per second if you let go of the rope, swept away by the current, and then would have had to get saved. So immediately, it's a high octane environment as you descend down to the 10 meters at the start of the shipwreck, going hand over hand down this rope in order to get to the shipwreck. Now, because the current was so strong, that meant that we had to go inside the shipwreck in order to avoid the current itself. So we make our way in. We had a couple of tasks to do as part of our advanced, like underwater photography. I can't remember the exact specifics of this dive, but this was the most intense and just incredible shipwreck that I dived in up to this point. We'd done a few in previous dives as well, purely because of the size of it and the size of the individual rooms. As I mentioned, 160 meters long, so you can imagine the sheer size of some of the rooms that you're in, but also the small doorways and narrow corridors that you're passing through as you make your way through the shipwreck. And so I'm in 2nd place following the dive master through, and I could tell that because of that current experience at the start that the student behind me was getting a little bit, quite a lot agitated, and she wasn't very confident, and she kept bumping into me from behind. And obviously we've got flashlights, we're in a very dark environment, we're in close proximity to walls, and getting bumped into is the last thing you want in that scenario. So she's not very calm, bumping into me a bit, and I'm thinking that's not ideal. Like, you're disrupting the safety of both of us at this point. So what I decided was the best thing to do was to let her in front of me. So I then kind of, when we're in a bigger room, pivot out of the way, she goes in front, and then she hugs the dive master's shoulder nice and tightly as we make our way through the shipwreck. And I distinctly remember at this point how wild it was that obviously we moved through various rooms, and I was the last to go through into every room. And at one point I put the flashlight against my torso just to see what it would be like how dark it would actually be if I couldn't see anything. Put the flashlight against my torso, and it just went bang, completely black. Obviously can't see anything around you. You don't know how buoyant you are, whether you're actually, you don't have a reference point to make sure that you're staying at the same depth. So you feel like, oh, am I going up? Am I going down? I have no idea. It's amazing how much you rely on your sight in order to guarantee that. And so that was a bit of a wake-up call of, all right, make sure you stay with the group, because if that flashlight goes out, you don't know how you're getting out of a room, and it's very easy to panic in that scenario, especially as you're making your way deeper and deeper. We got to deepest point in the shipwreck at around 27 meters, which is no joke, as you may know. So then I pivot the flashlight over to the doorway, see the doorway that I have to then climb through and swim through. So I go through there, meet the guys, and then we continue our way down to our maximum depth of just shy of 30 meters. As we're doing so, obviously the dive master's concerning himself with the girl who's not having the calmest experience. And also because I am a 90 kilogram male who was brand new to diving, so this was my 8th ever dive, as I said, so my air consumption wasn't fantastic, which meant that I was burning through my air a little bit, given obviously fighting the current, the stressful nature of the dive, and also the size of me. So I was constantly, 2-3 meters behind her, and then a further 3 meters behind the instructor, so I was never closer than 6 meters behind him. And obviously you've got to indicate to your instructor and dive master how much air you've got left at any given time, so that you remain safe and are able to slowly ascend back, do your safety stop and get back on the boat without any decompression issues, because if you ascend too quickly, all kinds of issues can unfold for your body. And so typically you're meant to instruct your instructor at around 70 bar, 80 bar. You start with 200 bars of pressure, and at around 70 or 80 bar, you're meant to inform them that the dive's coming to an end and we've got to make our way back, because I'm running low here. So obviously, because we're in a shipwreck and I can't get past this girl who's going a bit frantically, we get to the deepest part of the shipwreck at around that 27 meter mark, and it's only at that time that we go into like a nice open space that I can go over to him and say, hey mate, I've actually only got 50 bar left, which is obviously not ideal when you're down at 25 odd meters and having to navigate your way back up again. So he gets a bit of a fright and he's like, okay, yeah, we've got to get a shift on and get out of here. Out of this deepest point, the plan was to come out of the shipwreck and then traverse our way along the outside of the shipwreck back to the bow line and then up to the boat. However, the current obviously was still incredibly strong, and so that became not an option, because we would have just got swept away by the current as we tried to navigate our way back to the front of the boat. So what that meant was we had to go back into the shipwreck. Obviously I'm only on 50 bar here, I think she wasn't doing much better than that, and we have to navigate our way back the exact way that we came through. Just for clarity, as soon as you get to 10 bar, 0 bar, like you're out of air, and that's a serious problem. So that's why it was a pretty sticky situation. So here we are at the bottom of the shipwreck, having to make our way back. We still have to do our safety stop in order to make sure that we don't ascend too quickly as well. And so we're navigating our way back. She's obviously in the middle of myself and the instructor, and I'm just slowly keeping myself calm, breathing slowly, watching the air tick away. 45 bar, 40 bar, 35 bar, 30 bar, 25 bar by the time we get to the bow line, ready to do our decompression. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to make it at this point, but that was an extremely stressful moment there, where you don't know how long it's going to take you to get back. So then we sit up at 5 meters to do 5 meters depth, that is, to do our 3-minute safety stop, holding on to the bow line because of the strong current still, and I've reduced down to 15 bar, 10 bar, and then share the air of my instructor to ensure that I can do my full safety stop. So we share air on the way back up, and then I put my regulator back in and finish the dive that way. Get back to the boat, and she's extremely frazzled. I'm thinking I never want to dive with that person again, and that was just a wild, stressful adventure. And because when you're new to a sport like that, you don't realise whether is this just the stress of diving, or was that scary and dangerous? And obviously, the more you know about diving, you'll be able to answer that for yourself. I told this story to my dive master, soon-to-be instructor friend, yesterday, and he was like, yeah mate, that is not how that should have gone down. So yeah, I wanted to get that story out there, because this was almost 3 years ago now and it's untold. Obviously I've vlogged the entirety of my adventures over the last 3 years. However, I haven't. There's some slanderous stories and some more scandalous stories that I haven't potentially told throughout that time, and this was one near the very start that I wanted to get out there so that I didn't forget it. So there you go. That is the time I almost ran out of air 30 meters deep in a Japanese shipwreck. That is actually the hairiest situation I've been in diving, even since then, with hammerhead sharks, scalloped and great hammerhead sharks, and also Caribbean reef sharks. various other, the cenotes and cave diving in Mexico, everything else has been okay, as I'm now up to like 50 odd dives, I think, something around that region, and plenty more to come. I've got another diving video out soon. Before we row across the Atlantic, there's going to be another dive, so I'll try and get that on camera and see how we go. So there you go, that's a little story for you, and I'll see you on the next one.